You're tuned in to the MtG Cable cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering Finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seatbelts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cable cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal Cast, and this week, fresh off a Thursday night football victory by the Dallas Cowboys, we are recording kind of a shitty product review episode. Can I say that in the first 30 seconds?
I think so.
I guess we have the intro up before this, so that's probably fine. Basically, we're looking at what happened with the Lord of the Rings Holiday Edition, Doctor Who, the specialty products in the holiday season, which I guess was what they were designed for, and how that panned out versus what were obviously incredibly high expectations. Yes. So with that, let's take it away.
Right. So we'll start off with Doctor Who, because that basically came out and got immediately overshined by more Lord of the Rings stuff. And at the end of the day, this product seems to kind of fallen off. And when I say that, I don't mean in the sense that like, oh, well, the dinosaur cards are good. I mean, think past that. What cards are good? The set's basically fallen off. People just don't really seem to care about this set overall. The flavor might have hit in the names and the scenes and some of the effects, but it just seems like in general, a lot of this stuff has kind of become medium. And
at best.
Yeah, and it was really kind of interesting to see that happen, and also kind of disappointing as well, because this is supposed to be another world-renowned IP, right? This is, a world, what is it, like a 40-year, 50-year franchise, right?
It's been around significantly longer than Magic has. It has global appeal. It has appeal in sci-fi and, nerd culture. Not that those two are necessarily separate, but it's got a lot of appeal, and it should have done really well.
Mm-hmm. And it did for a hot minute, and then it just kind of fell flat. And the best example that we can really give of this is when we take a look at the Dawn Glare visualizer for this set. We're going to see pretty quickly this weird trend, and it is that if you're not a dinosaur and you are on this list, you are either a card that is reprinted or a card that offers protection or a clone.
Yeah.
And that is it. There's really nothing unique or interesting in this set that is being sought after. The most expensive Doctor in the set is $4 for the fourth Doctor, which I think is, now that I say it, is really ironic.
Yeah.
No other Doctor is worth more than $1 when you're buying singles. So at market value, that's what you're seeing. If you're going to buy bricks or multiple copies for whatever reason, they'll probably run you a little bit more than $1. But market, no Doctor is worth more than $1, which is really sad. The villains are worth more than the heroes, is basically what we're seeing. Cyberman Cyber Squad is the most expensive card in this set. It is not a clone. I'm sorry about that. Oh, it kind of is. Non-legendary artifact creatures you control have Myriad,
which I believe I picked not too long ago.
I believe so, and it is effectively a clone.
Yeah, it is.
That's what that card does. And it is kind of disheartening to see this set just kind of fall flat and be relegated into these very broad categories of, well, everything is poop aside from reprints, clones, and dinosaurs.
Which doesn't feel great.
No, not at all, especially for this IP that's meant to be beloved. At least the Jurassic Park stuff was really on the nose because it's just kind of dinosaurs and it's hard to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw with the Doctor Who set. Displaced dinosaurs, dinosaurs on a spaceship, flaming Tyrannosaurus are all worth a decent amount because they're dinosaurs, but they got a push from Ixalan. They started out hype because of Ixalan and what we were coming back to. It's not that they're just good enough to be played on their own. I think Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is...
Yeah.
Because it's got suspended, it makes more dinosaurs, right? So it plays into the Doctor Who theme of like time counters or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just hot garbo.
Yeah, it's and I remember when we when that got spoiled or whatever, I said, oh, well, they kind of outdid themselves because Doctor Who has much more broad appeal. But I think what this shows, at least to me, is that, it was doing really well at first in store for us.
Mhm.
And after the first couple of weeks, I haven't had anybody ask about it since. People have come in about Lord of the Rings. People have come in about Lost Caverns. They've come in about Wilds. They have not come in about Doctor Who. And I think what we see here is the staying power is not there for the IP. The staying power has to be there for the cards in order for the product to be good. Which, who knew? Having cards like Orcish Bowmasters and the One Ring and Lord of the Rings is the reason they're good products.
Yep, and
not because they're Lord of the Rings.
Even the Warhammer stuff. There's playable cards in the like non-reprints in that set. A lot of the Tyranid cards or whatever. One of them, the bug that exiles a graveyard and then makes more bugs for each creature. Like that is seeing legacy play. Like that is like cool.
Good.
Snuff Out was reprinted in the Doctor Who set. Cool. That's a reprint.
Yeah.
A+. You got Heroic Intervention in here as well. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Thematic, sure, but
yeah,
that's
right. About it. Thematic.
Like when we were looking to go to Eternal Weekend, this is like the set that we thought might break Legacy and or Vintage, because who knew what the hell was going to happen, and then we just got a bunch of crufty crap like we talked about, and I'm still very upset at the dexterity issue that is River Song, and I'm glad that card is worth like somewhere between 40 and 90 cents.
Oh God, I can't. I hope it top 8's an event at Eternal Weekend. Just want to see it happen.
I love the idea of brainstorming cards from the bottom to the top of your library. Like that just seems funny to me, but at the end of the day, it's
bad.
It is horrible, horrible, horrible.
It's so bad.
It's just terrible. So, this is not going to be a long tail product like the Lord of the Rings product is going to be, which means they're not going to continue to iterate on the IP. I mean, even if they did, if it was so middling, how much would we care about it moving forward? There are a lot of licensing fees associated with this one. With the Lord of the Rings stuff, they did not use much or any of the likenesses from the movies or the 70s drippy cartoon.
God, it was so good.
But they used the likenesses of all the doctors that they could, all of the companions. Yep. So there are a lot of fees associated with that. And if the set falls flat and they wanted to go back to the well, do you want to pay all those fees again? And that is something that I think it's noted every quarterly review.
Every single call we've done for the last year since they started this program is, licensing fees cut into our profits. Sorry, guys.
Exactly. And for the Jurassic Park stuff, like there are only so many humans in that. You're not paying licensing fees on a Tyrannosaurus,
Right.
Like unless Spielberg owns the rights to that one, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you have like a handful of humans and that's it, and that's cool, and you can iterate on those dinosaurs and the locales, and that's probably a lot cheaper than trying to get the likeness rights of a human. So you can keep dipping into that well, especially because dinosaurs are pretty agnostic, so you can keep going back. And it's an IP that lives inside a set pretty well. You're not trying to just shim like Jurassic Park into... where do we go next? Not Thunder Junction, but like one of the horror tropes or whatever.
Murders of Karlov Manor, I think, is the next one. Yeah.
If you've watched any of the Jurassic World stuff, it did turn a little horror movie-esque in the second one, like Lost Kingdom or Forgotten Kingdom, whatever it was. Like the end of that movie is like kind of just horror genre in a mansion.
Yeah, basically.
So you like WotC could have tried to shove that scene into Murders of Karlov Manor. But they didn't. They put it in Ixalan where it makes sense. We're not looking to do that. We're not going to just throw some doctors at like Time Spiral remastered because it involves time counters. Like, nope, this IP is just kind of dead and gone, I think.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because I like the IP. This is one that I'm actually a huge Who fan. Or Whovian, I guess they call themselves. But this it wasn't good, and I think it's indicative of a problem that Magic is having in general right now, that the design is just bad. It's been so power crept that it is hard to make impactful cards that will make a set last. And I think one of the nice things they've done is, by bringing back Standard, there's a little bit more emphasis on low power level for a while. The problem is you still have these products like Universes Beyond, like Modern Horizons 3, which, we're about to get some Modern Horizons 2 cards banned on Monday. Years later, So I'm sure when Modern Horizons 3 comes out, we'll have to wait 2 or 3 years before those cards get banned because they didn't test them. But it's kind of frustrating because we were told as a store, this is going to be a good product. This is going to help carry your holiday season. And I think the issue is Wizards has already made their money because, yet again, it's not Wizards sitting on a bunch of the sealed product. It's distros and stores.
Yeah.
And that's what feels bad about it, because I am sure that according to Wizards, this product was incredibly profitable.
I think this is a problem that's kind of emblematic with companies that really only solicit outside opinions from events that are inside the industry but purely tangential to what you do. So does WotC go to PAX? Yep, they have. They were there even before they did the Arena Championship there. Are they at Comic-Cons? Yeah, sometimes. So what happens? You see a lot of people cosplaying Doctor Who, and when you sniff your own farts, this is what happens. You're like, so many people love Doctor Who, we're just going to blow it out. But they never checked with the actual, boots on the ground people, any of the LGSs.
To see if they would actually care.
Yeah. How many people come in with an 8-foot-long fucking scarf to your store and a fedora?
None ever.
Exactly. They never solicited that information from an LGS. That's why I went there.
Yep.
They didn't solicit that information from the people that could actually tell them whether or not this product is going to sell. And when you don't do that, you overprint it, or you just print to nostalgia or a want to see your ideal or favorite IP skinned into your game, and you end up with exactly this, just a set that is just so boring and bland from a play standpoint. You mentioned power creep in regards to standard. This is just meant to be a commander set, and the Lord of the Rings Commander supplemental that just came out, it didn't blow the doors off Commander, but it at least has some cards that are slightly impactful, even enough for constructed. Again,
Legolas's lightning reflexes.
Exactly. But this set has nothing in that regard. It can't even keep up with Commander.
Yeah.
It was just built for people who want to see the IP on cards, and the text could be, if anybody's used the auto text generator Lorem Ipsum, it could just be that over and over again, but it doesn't matter because their IP is on a card, and that's what they care about. If they put the Ninja Turtles on a card, I'm going to buy up everything. Everything. I don't care what the cards say. They're going up in the house. Straight up. I know that about me. And I'm sure Whovians are the same here. And this is the product we end up with. Something just kind of falls super flat.
Yeah.
Now, before we continue to spiral, and I get even more mad about this and the fact that only one doctor is worth more than bulk, the Lord of the Rings Holiday Commander set. At its core, this is a supplemental to a supplemental, which is the weirdest thing ever. I really did not think that was the case until I read up on it a little more. I'm like, weird. For those that don't know, like me, it actually came with more than just these scene boxes. It came with Jumpstart boosters, which means a display, and collector boosters, which also means a display. And they are very specifically branded. Jumpstart Volume 2 boosters is what they say. And then there's this green stripe collector boosters special edition. Yep, and then the scene boxes have that information on it as well. And the Jumpstart and CBs were kind of news to me. I thought it was just the scene boxes. And so this is a set inside a set, which makes it very difficult to track on TCG Player when you just want to know. But at the end of the day, what this did is it adds 4 additional scenes specifically crafted to the Lord of the Rings set. And each one of these scenes comes with 6 unique cards with a very specific mechanic on them relevant to that scene. And this also introduced the 6 or 7 showcase treatments that we're seeing. There's the 60s and 70s rock poster stuff. There's some serialized treatment. There's the scroll treatment. And it basically went, I think there's not fusion, what the surge foiling is on some of this stuff too, so it crushed the value on that. The
1 in 8 packs.
Yep, the box toppers from Lord of the Rings are in this set again, which also brings the value of all those down in regular and surge foil. And this basically just floods the market with a second set or second wave, big wave of Lord of the Rings proper, and then specific scenes. And the most important part about this is seemingly outside of the reprints, the individual cards that are coming at us, because like they're brand new, so this is why it's kind of a supplemental inside a supplemental. We've got 24 brand new cards for Lord of the Rings Commander that came out like, what is it, 5 months after initial release?
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at here. Interesting product overall, because the scene boxes, they set the scene with story, and they also have the scene art that we saw with they're not fat packs anymore. What are they?
Not fat packs. Gift bundles.
The gift bundles. Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, they're fat packs.
Yeah, the Sam, Gollum, Frodo ring scene where Gollum is reaching, like diving after the ring into Mount Doom. That scene, think about that. But now we have 4 new ones, and so this is what we got November 3rd, I think.
Yeah,
was street date, and this is the newest thing on LGS shelves and big box shelves, which is a big question I had. So when I learned about this product, I had a number of questions I needed answered. So from the LGS perspective, when were you solicited for this?
So it was shortly after the announcement, which I'm pretty confident means that the distros obviously knew about it. They just couldn't tell us, obviously, until the announcement was made that, like, okay, cool, let's go ahead and see what we can do.
Yeah.
You know, and that was when it happened. And it was a pretty standard, hey, how many do you want? They gave us the same spiel, you know, oh, it's going to be, you know, like limited product. It's going to be hard to get. But they say that about every product now, except for mass releases. But any of like the special or supplementals, I mean, they even told us, you know, Ravnica Remastered was going to be limited. Man, there's no way. So it was shortly thereafter was when we were solicited.
Okay. And because these are scenes themselves, in my mind, this works like commander sets where you're going to order a case, and you're not going to order like, we need 6 of each scene or 5 of one and 3 of another. You're going to order a case, and however many scenes come in that case is how many you get times that number of cases.
Yeah, so the cases come 1 of each scene, and it is the most, pardon my French, dogshit way to do it. They should have just had 1 scene and given you multiple per case, because of course we're now sitting on like I think 12 of one of the scenes because nobody wants it.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
It also makes it very difficult because our understanding was this specifically, the scene boxes were designed to be a gift that you give to someone. If I have 4 choices, that's a terrible gift. Because now when a customer comes in and says, oh, I want to get this for, you know, my friend, son, spouse, whatever, it's like, do you know which scene he likes?
Yeah, so let me run this down. So there are 4 scenes. There's Aragorn at Helm's Deep that has Andril, Narsil Reforged, that's the new card there, Aragorn, Hornburg Hero, Legacy's Quick Reflexes, Gimli's Reckless Might, Isengard Unleashed, and Rohirrim Chargers. The Might of Galadriel has Arboreal Alliance, Galadriel, Light of Valinor, Rally the Galadrim, Galadriel's Dismissal, Mists of Lorien, and Galadrim Brigade. Gandalf in the Pelennor Fields has Olorin's Searing Light, Sorceress Squall, Ramus Echor, Ancient Shield, Courageous Resolve, Gandalf of the Secret Fire, and Felbe's Shriek. And then the last one is Flight of the Witch King, which has Call Forth the Tempest, Nazgul Battle Mace, Witch King Sky Scourge, Mordor on the March, Fell Beast of Mordor, Minas Morgul, Dark Fortress. And most of those names mean nothing to anyone because they tell you nothing about what's going on the card themselves. They are just the new cards in each one of these scenes that has its own unique mechanic or keyword on them, unique to that scene.
Yeah.
So there's really no information up front besides art and some name. And some of them don't even have character names on them directly.
Yeah. And it's then now the onus is on both us as a store and the customer to know what they're getting as a gift. Now, if this has just been marketed as, hey, here's a cool, neat thing, cool, awesome. And I understand Wizards is not responsible for how distributors market stuff for us.
No, not at all.
But they certainly give them copy. So, yeah, but that's, yeah, it was, we ordered by the case.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, unfortunately, even if you know, and it's just like commander decks, you may know that one of those decks is absolutely stacked, and you will sell as many as you can get.
Yep. And then
The
you're just stuck
problem
on the
is
others.
you're stuck on the others. So it was like a lot of recent commander product, just a little bit more limited in terms of what we ordered.
Yep. So at the end of the day, the idea is to just kind of like do some quantitative easing with these. And the contents is the 6 cards,
Yeah.
6 art cards, 3 set boosters, and a paper display easel. Like, cool, I guess. And that's it. That's supposed to be inside of each one of them. And
Yeah.
so it really is just easing the product, so you pick the one that has either the best value in it, which right now is still the first one I read off, Aragorn and Helm's Deep, because of
Yeah.
Legacy's quick reflexes.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the rest of them just kind of sit and rot because it seems like nobody really cares, or they're just kind of blasé cards inside. And you're left with them. What is MSRP on these things, by the way? Do you remember?
Doesn't exist.
Oh, on your shelf, what is the price?
Well, they're currently online, and they were part of our Black Friday special because they did so incredibly well.
Ugh.
But they were selling for around 30 to 40 each was
Okay.
like the standard range for them.
Okay. So yeah, so it's like when I say 3 set boosters, so like $12 to $15 for packs alone. So yeah, not too much more for the cards. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So do you know what the difference in timing was for when you received these versus big box?
So this was one that there was an email that went out about product delays that may or may not affect you, but we got it at about the same time.
Okay.
I know some areas of the country had some issues, not because of distribution, like with WotC, but because there were a couple of distributor warehouses that were caught up in a storm in the
that
southeast.
flooded or
So
whatever. Yeah.
So like, act of God, that's going to happen regardless. You can't really, change
Yep.
that.
Yep. For some reason, I had it in my mind that these were a big box thing, but I think that's because they broke street date in October, and so these were floating on shelves earlier. Did you guys decide to do pre-orders on these? Like, they're not decks, so I would assume not.
So we actually occasionally do take pre-orders on stuff that's like, we'll see how it goes because we know we can get an unlimited quantity of it. So
Yeah.
what we'll do is, say we'll order 100 boxes of something and we'll throw like 40 online for pre-order. Well, if those 40 sell, we'll just contact our distro and be like, hey, yo, we'll take more. This was not one that we took pre-orders on.
Okay.
In fact, we're actually, it has been discussed not just at our shop, but at a couple of other shops I talked to, if they even want to do pre-orders on Magic at all anymore. Because it's getting to the point where it is, the sealed product is so difficult to sell sometimes, it's just not worth the effort, But,
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And like for something like this, unless you see it as being like the holiday thing and having to put a limiter on it that way, I wouldn't imagine there were pre-orders. This isn't True Name, Nemesis, Toxic Deluge, and Baleful Strix in the same deck. This is just
yeah, exactly.
whatever,
It's just a holiday. And now we still take pre-orders on like, collector boosters and set boosters or whatever, but specialty products like this, we're getting far, far away from.
Okay, that makes sense. And sometimes it's just easier for first come, first serve, just fairer overall.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, did your locals know about this product?
So it was really interesting. We had when they first made the announcement, we had a couple people ask, hey, are you getting this in? This seems cool. Then it died. Nobody cared.
Yep.
And then it came out, and most of the people that were coming in and getting it, it wasn't because they wanted it. It was because it, as intended, from what we were told, it was people were buying Christmas gifts for friends. And it was, we're doing a white elephant gift or something like that in our Magic group, or I'm getting, this other person this gift because they really want the cards in it.
Yeah.
Which is, Legolas's lightning reflexes, if we're being honest.
Yep. 100%.
And so it had some interest, but it died really quick.
Okay.
Because the next product came out.
Yeah.
And, we've harped on that in the show before, but it's seemingly more and more true every week when a new product comes out that, man, it really is just turn and burn as fast as possible and don't sit on anything if you can help it.
Yeah, this seemed like the kind of product that if it was going to stick on your shelves, it was going to move to people who were interested in Lord of the Rings and less the player base because it wasn't meant to be cracked for singles. There's an easel in this thing. Like, this is meant for somebody who enjoys...
Display.
Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense that interest would die down overall when the entire set isn't a hit. It's just like this handful of stuff. That said, the collector boosters is probably going to be the largest mover on of this product because of the contents of those collector boosters on the whole, not just the one scene. And so you basically covered the last question I had, which is just, did your locals care about it? And it seemed like they did for a minute, and then because they're Magic players, not Lord of the Ring collectors.
It was on to the next product.
Yeah, which was Ixalan, and has a large number of other shiny options for one to pick up.
Yeah.
So, like, all in all, this seems like I like the idea of the scene stuff. I like that Magic is leaning into like mosaic art. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think this is a neat way to do it.
Yeah, I think theoretically it's a great thing for them to do. I think that, like, with most things Wizards has done, the execution is a little lacking. But I think, it's attaboy, pat on the back, your heart's in the right spot, I guess.
Yeah. Like, if this was just the scene and not the set boosters, you can slash the price of this to like half or even the same thing as a starter deck, because this is more meant for display than it is anything else. You can do it
cracking for singles. Yeah.
You could put it in a 3x3 binder, or you could mat it and put it on a wall. Like, you could do whatever you want with it. The options are yours. So this product is one that kind of like straddles a weird line between, you can pick up some interesting singles by cracking the packs. And also, by the way, there are 6 cards in this set, some of which are better than others, one of which kills with Dark Depths. And that is kind of where we are with this product. Does it exist in the future, and do they iterate? I would assume so, because like I said, I think this is a really interesting way to do it. And if you want to go back to the well with the idea of launching Jumpstart and collector boosters alongside the scene stuff, go for it, fine, whatever, who cares. I think more people overall view this suite of products in a sour kind of way, because of what it did to the prices of Surge foils, of the showcase foils. It introduced a new, what do you want to call, a new frame in the scroll.
New treatment. Oh boy.
Yeah. And so overall, like, the collector boosters and that kind of taints the product. But if you separate out the scene box itself, I think this is a really interesting product overall. But just kind of like jamming packs into it to just kind of entice people is a poopy way to go.
Yeah.
So interesting overall. Is there anything else around this thing that like is interesting to note from an LGS perspective?
Not really. I mean, it was kind of interesting to see them, have a dedicated holiday product, which they really haven't had since I think it was the RTR gift box, like the holiday gift box.
Theros might have been the last one. I remember that giant chunky Elspeth one.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, that was like the giant square thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, oh, okay, this is good, and it was nice to see them do that. I just again wish that we could have gotten a little bit more cohesion there, a little bit more thought and effort into it, just to make it great. But I digress.
Yeah, I think they can let the scene boxes stand by themselves, and if the store wants to bundle them with packs, the store can do that, or maybe make it a suggestion in the solicitation or the explanation of the product. You don't do it up front and cause like I said, this weird value rub between people who just want the scenes and the people who want like the cards as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think we might get. I imagine we'll get some more of this.
I'm sure,
but we don't know where the end of the Lord of the Rings tale is yet.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll find out in a call shortly, but until then, this is a long tail product that is just going to continue to be wrung out, and maybe we will get additional Commander supplementals for this fucking set.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Either that happens, or they ban like Bowmasters and the Ring, and then the set has no value.
There's
no chase. No, not.
Yeah.
Bowmasters is actually a healthy card.
It is.
Oh god, I could spin out because of EW, but like, boy howdy, is the set fine for Eternal formats, but Modern Horizons 2 is a poop show.
God, it was bad.
All right. Before I spin out, let's get to picks.
Yes. So I'm gonna go first.
Yep, go for it.
I'm picking kind of an interesting one this week. So this is, as I've discussed outside of the podcast. I want to go more anecdotal with my picks and try to give more of the LGS perspective. So something that we've actually had people asking about, and then looking at the data into it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I should probably pick this, is a card that kind of ties into your pick from last week, Professional Facebreaker, and that is Reign of Riches from Streets of New Capenna Commander.
Mm-hmm.
So this card is 5 mana. It's a red enchantment with too much text. Everybody knows how I feel about those. But 80% of the text is reminder text for a keyword that is now not in use. And it reads, when it enters the battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. The first spell you cast each turn that mana from a treasure token was spent to cast has Cascade. So treasures are evergreen. We know that.
Yeah.
We now have Discover as a replacement for Cascade, which is evergreen.
Yep.
This is another way for you to get free spells in a color that has infinite ways of enabling them. And it's something that we've had some people asking about lately. Now, checking out the stocks graph, if you look at the low price, you can actually see we're kind of on an uptick now. We bottomed out a couple months ago, and now we're slowly, steadily creeping up into like the $5 range.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting for this card. If you look at TCG Player, our old friends, The Gaming Co., rest in peace, are the lone, well, there's a couple of anchors with decent quantity, but last week when we recorded, there were 9 listings above The Gaming Co. for this card. There's now 1. And The Gaming Co. is anchoring this at $4.24 with 547 copies of a card that was only available in Commander decks, and I think an extended art treatment in the collector boosters. But we very quickly, doesn't seem like it because there's a number of pages, but it's probably within maybe 200 copies of that, get to the $10 range on this card. Now, if you look at sales velocity, we're looking at maybe 7 or 8 a day. So it's going to be a bit before this ticks up. Mm-hmm. But this is one that I think is ripe for an explosion before too long. Obviously, at 7, 8 copies a day, we're going to be waiting like a year before we get there. But I'm really confident in this card because it is something that gives card advantage in a color that doesn't necessarily have the best. It's easily enabled by the color. And it's something that we've seen cards like Maelstrom Wanderer exist not only in Battle Cruiser and 75%, but also in CEDH. Additionally, as you highlighted with Professional Facebreaker, it's just a good source of card advantage. Yep. And that'll always see play, no matter where.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what decks, what formats. Obviously, this is a Commander card. 5 mana is a lot for something that doesn't win the game in Legacy or Modern. I think realistic timeline, we're probably looking at 5-6 months. I personally have bought 30 copies from The Gaming Co. And about probably 10-15 more that have been in the store periodically because I really believe in this one.
Yep.
It's something that reprint wise I'd be a little concerned about the price, except that Cascade has been phased out. They've said they're getting rid of it. It's Discovery. So I'm a little bit more confident that we won't see a meaningful reprint of this set in like a Secret Lair or something like that. Treasures, while evergreen, seems like Revel in Riches was able to dodge a reprint. I don't think this one sees a reprint anytime soon. I also think very nicely, if we're talking in the 4 to 6 month range, it's right around tax time, which is a great time to have a card go up in value. The other anchors worth noting, there's one vendor with 66, a couple with like 15 to 20. But other than that, this one's a pretty smooth ride that has seemingly good liquidity for how obscure the card is.
Yep.
When people first started asking about this in store, I didn't know this card existed.
Yeah, when you told me this card like last week, like you had this like on lock. We ended the cast and you just slammed this at me like, okay.
Yeah. So to confirm, checking right now, page 5 is where we start to get into the $8, $9, $10 range on this card.
Yep.
And most of the listings between there and where we're at now, outside of the Gaming Co., are 1 copy. So once the Gaming Co. dam breaks, as was the case with the Gaming Co. for a very long time, this price is going to skyrocket. This card is going to skyrocket.
Mm-hmm.
Just solid, good. I like it. I hope you guys like it too. That's really all I got, and our locals like it. So,
so I'm gonna throw some extra weight at this, and that's gonna be a pun in a moment. So, this card and the card that I picked, we picked well before the Discover deck, the combo deck, actually took off in Pioneer, and before it started to wreak havoc in Commander. There is in Modern and in Legacy a version of the deck that also exists. There's a shell that was ported in Legacy called Mississippi River. There's just a mono Cascade deck, and now uses Trumpeting Carnosaur, which I think we talked about in the Hype episode.
Yeah,
and
not good.
That deck, it is not really that good. There are too many spheres. That deck, in general, can use Cascaders to accomplish the same thing when the deeper you go and the wider your card pool gets. So when you have a card like Quintorius Cond, which is kind of running the show in Pioneer right now, behind that version of the deck, it becomes this kind of arms race to how do you cast as many spells as possible from exile, because the passive on Quintorius Cond says whenever you cast a spell from exile, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. Then the minus on it is Discover 4. So what you basically want to be doing with Quintorius Cond is just cascading or discovering infinitely, cloning through various means. Yeah, exactly. Into an infinitum, into a win. And when you have a way to take a resource like a treasure and turn it into a kill condition this easily, I think you're going to see the card kind of pop. Another good reason for another good example of this is the Bombardiers. What are their names?
Goblin Bombardiers is insane. Yeah. That card is so good.
Yeah. So
spoiler alert for next week.
So I had this on. I'll bring this up as well. I had this on my notes for a card to pick when it was like $3 or $4, and it is a 2/2 Goblin Pirate for 2 and a red with Menace and Haste, and none of that matters at all. No. Aside from the mana value, it costs 3. Then it has this weird keyword, Boast. Well, what does Boast do? Sacrifice another creature or artifact. Broadside Bombardiers deals damage equal to 2 plus the sacrifice permanent's mana value to any target. But if you're making infinite treasures with Dockside Extortionist already, you just throw all the treasures
for 2 mana for 2 damage each.
So this is a sack outlet to put Dockside Extortionist in your graveyard to bring back in any number of ways. So, and this card has gone from like nothing to over $10 because of that, because it can do things like turn treasures into a kill condition, which Reign of Riches can do alongside Bombardiers and Quintorius Cond.
Yeah.
So right now, people are still experimenting with that deck, still building that deck in Commander. And if you look at Quintorius Cond on Rec, Reign of Riches isn't there. The deck is still forming. When you look at Reign of Riches, though, you do see a lot of cards that share overlap with Quintorius Cond. People just haven't gone down, I don't want to say the rabbit hole far enough, but just haven't gone down and really kind of
theory crafted
fleshed out the list. Yeah. Because it can't be just a Boros deck. It's got to be at least Jeskai. You need the blue for either clones or additional discovers, additional crafting, what have you. You need the blue part of that. So when we get there, I think there's going to be an additional push on Reign of Riches. So getting in now kind of furthers us. So that does push up the velo issue that you were talking about as well.
That's true.
We really haven't seen we haven't seen LCI really experimented with from a content creator standpoint. Star City just did their 3rd game, but it was only the first time where they actually played their own decks. They did Jurassic Park, then they did the Precons, I think, and they finally did their own decks, but none of them discovered, if memory serves.
I don't think so, yeah.
Jeremy did Malcolm. Suarez was on Selesnya with the general that draws a card. Baumeister played Dinosaurs, I think, again, and Green was on Descend. He was on a Thoracle combo, basically. He wanted to mill himself out. So nobody's made it here yet. So again, I think when we get there, when we see a content creator push, or people just kind of dive down into what you can be doing with Discover, they'll find Reign of Riches, and then there we go. For me, I did mention that my pick was kind of tangential to this, and that's because it is a clone. It is Flesh Duplicate. Oh no, sorry, not Flesh Duplicate. Rennicus Vile Duplication. Sorry, which is a clone, and it's from Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. 3 in a blue. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except the token has flying and isn't legendary if that creature is legendary. So it runs along the same parallels as Spark Double. So removing the legendary clause can be huge in some instances, unnecessary in others. When I put this on my list in August, I think last year, CK was buying 90 at $1.80. This past August, they were buying 91, also at $1.80, but that has since jumped to a whole $2. So we're seeing movement on the buy list finally. They're just buying like 66 copies as of today, so we're seeing like a 10% increase, which is not bad for an uncommon. Like, that's the other thing you got to remember. And then from a TCG market standpoint, on my list there, when I add to the list, there were 288 listings for $2.99. There are 225 listings right now at $2.98. So again, TCG market's kind of floating around the same price point. But we're looking at this because it is a clone that removes the legendary clause, if you want to consider that a thing. And it's a $2, $3 uncommon, which is not something to sneeze at right now. Like,
no.
So when we look at this, we're basically just looking to clone for value. So this makes a token. It's not a creature, which is also kind of unique. So you can just clone the token out. If you need to, you can populate it. I think that's the keyword that copies a token, right?
Yes.
Disclosing the keyword.
Yep.
You can do that. There are a lot more interesting things you can do with this card than just like, oh, here's the literal card clone. Boop, here we are. So this is basically just here from the rec side of things to copy commanders and just double up on that. That's what people are doing right now. And unlike clone effects that are also creatures, like Spark Double itself, we can't use this in Gyruda combo to go off, but we do instead get the benefit of spell doubling creatures like Dualcaster Mage and Narrow Meha, allowing us to make infinite copies of one or the other to kind of combo out that way. And that's kind of where the difference is. And for this versus other creature clones that remove the legendary super type, because there are not that many, but that's basically the difference is, do you want to go infinite with Gyruda, or do you want to go infinite with Spark Double and Fork style effects? Not Spark Double, sorry. Dualcaster Mage and Fork style effects. Otherwise, they're like the same thing. In the end, they all coalesce around the same bunch of combos and value plays, depending on what the caster is looking to do. And if you want to be more casual, you'll clone your commander or large value creatures to gain an advantage that way. If you want to be more competitive, you can clone commanders like Kadama of the East Tree or Brutaclad, Telcor Engineer, or Godo Bandit Lord and combo out from there. And a lot of the clones that do that do only cost 2, 3, or 4. There is a very small quantity of those, and they are all either really casual or really aggressive, just depending on how you want to build around them, which kind of branches or bridges that gap, which is what we really like. We like that opportunity to sell to both sides of the player base. Godo, I have seen played as a CEDH list because it is basically just a 2-card combo. It's Godo and Helm of the Host.
Yep.
Basically, anything that can clone Godo that removes the legendary super type.
Yeah.
Which Vile Duplication does. It makes a clone. It makes a token copy that can be therefore copied out. The timeline on this thing, it has a decent velocity at about 20 a day during the Black Friday sale, but it looks like it's returning to somewhere around 10 to 15, which is a little higher than we've seen previous. But time will really tell where the velo on this settles. I hope it stays at 10 to 15, which will be really nice for this card and kind of bring it back to where it was when Baldur's Gate was released, because I'll bring up the stocks graph again. We can see it went from like nothing to a $5 clone, which is pretty rare, especially for an uncommon. It just kind of settled off. And once we get past the 3 bricks totaling about 100 copies, the card moves to 350, which is like a 30% increase from where we are now, and then $4 pretty quickly thereafter. And turning this back into the open market for profit should happen over the next 3 months pretty cleanly if we were to get in now. So that kind of gives you an idea of like where this card is heading. And again, this is all written before the Discovery deck just kind of took off and blew out. And making token copies of these creatures can be really important. In Pioneer, you're playing Spark Double alongside Clever Impersonator. Irenicus Vile Duplication being in a Commander Legend set just makes it available to Commander only, but it's another cheap clone to hit off of all this stuff that's like right in that sweet spot of where you need to be when you're discovering. Because again, Quintorius Khan discovers for 4, which is exactly what Irenicus's Vile Duplication costs.
Yep.
So it's like, if Velo holds pretty steady or increases because of this, then we remove those bricks, and now we're at a $4 card in probably about a month and a half, like in the short term. If it takes a little longer, that's fine, but it should be about 3 months. The buy list on this, though, might be a little bit longer, probably 6 to 9 months out, and this is, again, written before the Discover deck. And I think that's fine. CK, like I said, it's been pretty slow overall for about the past year after that initial jump and then kind of flatten. So we've just been waiting on this, and we can wait a little longer. WotC does seem to want to pump out new clone effects in at least one commander set a year. We can look at Flesh Duplicate in the Who set as our clone for the year, so I expect another clone effect to slow our timeline a bit as CK shoves in on that, because when Flesh Duplicate was released, they were buying like 200, 300, 400 copies, depending on how far out from Who release we were, just trying to get their hands on this. And every time we get one, that just slows Velo on the rest until they dry up.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's why we're looking at a 6-month timeline of CK, unless the Discover deck takes off in Commander, which is a distinct possibility, and then the timeline shrinks, but that one's going to be a little hard. Reprint equity on this one, I think, is pretty much low to none. It didn't take me that long to find this out, but John Irenicus is a known quantity in the Forgotten Realms, even seeing a character in the Baldur's Gate game series, and I'll link that one for you. So I really doubt we're going to get John's Vile Duplication anytime soon, anywhere else. So I think we're pretty safe to hold on to this one. I think we're going to be insulated really well.
Yeah.
By quantity on this, I'd pick up about 8 if I were looking to move these to players locally, and somewhere between a dozen and 20 if I are going to be moving these to buy list. And if you want to wait a little bit and see what the Discover deck does, you could probably go in a little bit deeper and feel a little more comfortable on that. But the reason I would go pretty short on these for locals is because I don't know how many people are really going to want to access these from binders locally. And having access to the grand player base is going to be the best option overall to move a lot of quantity. And I think this is a card where you can do a lot of churn pretty easily.
Yeah. So I think this card's great because if there's one thing that the history of Magic has told us, it's that clones will see play. They are popular. The thing that I really like is that it clones in a very unique way that indicates a potential change in design philosophy. And what I mean by that is, as you mentioned early on, it creates a token, which is not something that has been, I feel like, really widely explored in the design space, and it actually gives a little bit more play because now all of a sudden tokens aren't just Selesnya. We have clone effects that can make tokens. So not only do you get into the combo elements of like cloning a Godot or being more CEDH focused, you actually get kind of a casual lean to it as well.
Yep.
Which, everyone, there's, your life gain deck, your angel deck. Clones are a deck that a lot of casual players just try to mess around with. And I think you're right that this is one that will be very liquid before too long, and we'll see an explosion in price, because if even one content creator puts this out there that casual players follow, that all of a sudden, oh man, I've never seen this card before because let's be real, a lot of casual players haven't necessarily been around that long or look too deep on things. And I think that's where, and I think that's where you'll really see this kind of take off is as people discover this card. Oh shit, this is good. Because a lot of people, frankly, with these new sets are just looking at rares and mythics and kind of gloss over on everything else because realistically, it just doesn't matter, right? Most people don't care about the commons and uncommons. Those aren't the things that have the big impact in EDH, in Modern, in Pioneer. But this is one that, and I'll try to call out periodically, here's a common or uncommon in a set that I really like. This is one that I think a lot of people missed because it is just a random uncommon from the set.
Yeah. I think the design space of making a token from a sorcery is overlooked here because it's not Rite of Replication, which just makes a squad. It's a singular token that can get reset or removed really easily. But at the end of the day, that's what separates it from the rest of the clone effects and offers it a more unique opportunity to win the game when you're looking at something like I said, Dualcaster Mage and Narumeha, who copy spells.
Yeah.
Not just creatures on board. So this is kind of a two-way player in that regard.
Yep.
Like,
awesome.
Yeah. This is, like I said, I've been sitting on this one for a while, and it was just about time to move on it once CK started buying more for more. Like, that means people have come back to this card in some way, shape, or form, and we're not waiting on it or holding our breath. We're just finally seeing a decent velo on it again. People are interested in this card, and just by pure serendipity, we're able to get in ahead of what could be a move to another combo deck in Commander that will take advantage of any type of clone effects it can get that costs 4 or 5 or less. Because you have 99 cards, so you can play some of the larger Discover creatures. So you're going to get all the clones you pop, like in Jeskai, which means not literal clone costs 4. Vesuvian Doppelganger costs 5. Like you'll get some of those hits probably popping as well. So this is one I would keep my eye out on. I did mention in Flesh Duplicate a bunch here as well. I think that's another one to look out for. But the other thing is that this, like Spark Double, sorry, when I say this, I mean Vile Duplication, removes the Legendary Clause like Spark Double does. The other clones, for the most part, do not. So that's another interesting avenue for this card compared to others. So if you did want to move in on clone effects for these decks, if you wanted to focus on Constructed, the look is Spark Double and Clever Impersonator for Pioneer. There are no clones in the Legacy version. It just plays all the Cascade creatures because it has access to things like Maelstrom Wanderer because Legacy.
Card's great.
Exactly.
Big fan.
Yep. In Commander, though, you'll probably want to go more Jeskai, which means you can look at some of the different clones. And I would start here. I would start with Spark Double. I think Dax Duplicate.
Yeah.
Is it DACK? Yeah. Dax.
Yep. Dax Duplicate. Yeah.
It's a shape. It's again a clone, but it's a creature. It ETBs as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it has haste and dethrone. And dethrone doesn't matter because you're going to win in that turn. But it's another cheap clone. It costs a whole 35 cents right now, but it fits into the Jeskai shell. It costs 4. It's exactly what you need it to do. And this might just be another one of those opportunities to kind of stack up a bunch of options and move in on as many as you want. I think Duplication just is cheap enough right now and unique enough removing the Legendary Clause to go the deepest on the easiest and have the highest return on the easiest compared to like Dax Duplicate, which has done nothing for so long and was printed in Conspiracy and Double Masters. So there's probably infinite out there. So you're competing with who knows how many copies right now.
Too many. Yeah.
All right. Anything else for this week?
That should be good.
Yeah. All right. So next week for us. So when this episode comes out on Monday for the podcast, Wednesday for the video, we will be at Eternal Weekend.
Yes.
You will be working a booth there, correct?
Yes, I will be at Level Up Games. Come swing by.
I will be floating around the event. I don't know if I'm going to be a chip in a chair yet. People are trying to talk me into playing instead of just lending out cards. But I might just.
You legitimately should, man. It is so much fun. I can't say that enough.
I had plans, and I'll hold this up. You can't see it now, but this is for my own embarrassment. I own 4 showcase attractions already. I attempted to order 4 foil and just bought 4 regular again, so not all my threats in sneak or foil. So, like, I have a problem, and I don't know if it'll be solved in a week and a half.
Get me the list. I'll see what I.
It's just I ordered them today. I corrected my error. It's just literally the four showcase attractions for that event. Because if I'm gonna ball, I want to ball
ball out. Yeah,
but no foil brainstorms because that's just
too degenerate.
Yeah, for right now. But we'll both be around the event. Come say hi if you see us. I think I might have my cube on me all weekend. So if you want to sit down and cube draft at any point in time, that is also an option and an opportunity.
I'm certainly down.
So
myself, you should do it.
So for at MTG Beancast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and YouTube, I am at Halt. I am Reptar. You are
at Damon_Thurston.
And we'll see you next week.